Chapter 1. Finn. Murder is just so tedious. The blood, the weapons, the extravagant mess to clean up over and over and over. Does anyone even know how much bleach I've had to endure smelling over the years? Gallons, truckloads. I've lost 2 pairs of shoes in the past 3 months to unfortunate missteps. The desktop screen of my laptop is covered in folders meticulously organized into files labeled poisons, burn phones, cybersecurity, brilliant body hiding spots, run-of-the-mill body hiding spots, and, a fan favorite, absolutely bloody pathetic body hiding spots. I could make a killing, pun absolutely intended, selling this computer and all its contents on the serial killer black market. I've been in the business of murder for 8 years. Nothing to brag about in the grand scheme of things, but long enough that I've made a name for myself. A reputation. And by the age of 30, here I stand. Finn Alexander Masters III, son of proud parents Mary and Finn Masters II of 202 Summerhill Road, Welling, England, settled for life in the great land of Los Angeles, pigeonholed into the career of my dreams, murder. And all I want, the whole reason I'm here at this absurd party tonight, is to get out. And then it turned out they all were in on it, sputters the man opposite me. Spittle blinds me in one eye. Brilliant! While holding his appetizer plate, he motions with both hands that his head is exploding. Several sausages quiver and roll onto the rug. My eyes flicker down to the white shag. Mr. Henry doesn't seem to notice. Were you the mastermind behind that just absolutely awesome twist? I crouch, which, mind you, is no simple task in the small, overstarched suit my co-writer Paula pushed into my hands this morning with a shh as she shut the wardrobe door behind her. As I collect the tiny sausages, I say what I always say in these moments. It was a joint effort. Everyone in the writer's room is essential. But yes, I had thought of that plot twist, and yes, I am secretly quite proud of that one. Oh, yes, a team effort, he says seriously as though he knows every detail of life inside the writer's room. Your minds have to be in sync, so much so that you're always finishing each other's sentences. We never do that. That's a pat on the back for the higher-stakes director who hired you all. Executive producer. He had to know you could work together. I can just imagine him. Throwing you all in a room together as he stood behind some great big mirror, seeing how his creation worked it all out. We are not monkeys in a lab. She is not God. There is no mirror. And now look at you. He throws out a hand and another sausage. Writing as a synchronized team for the biggest murder mystery sitcom. Sitcoms are comedies. On television today. The Backstreet Boys, so to speak, of Hollywood. He finishes his monologue and stares at me with a smile that lasts several silent seconds, then gives fresh attention to the sausages I've returned to his plate, pops one into his mouth, begins chewing, continues smiling at me, now while chewing. As if at any moment I'm supposed to erupt with a, "Bravo, you nailed it." I'm just opening my mouth to thrust forward some such reply, because fine, the whole point of my being at this party is to win over potential employers, when he adds the fateful words, "The only thing that could possibly top what you've all done would be if Lavender Rhodes was your leading lady." My body tenses as if he just casually pulled a grenade from his pocket. "Can you just imagine?" he says wistfully, casting a hopeful glance at the mob of guests around us. "I'd rather not." My response is immediate, my tone flat. He pulls back for a startled moment. Then abruptly he laughs, accompanied by a shake of my shoulder. "You Brits! Such dry humor." As I'm being shaken like a rag doll, I cast a sidelong glance at Paula, who has been following the conversation from across the room. She gives 2 thumbs up in a sort of, "Power on, you are doing great." I bet this is the sort of gesture nurses give women in labor when they're on hour 19 and the nurses secretly know they've got at least another 10 hours to go. I take a breath. There are 34 couches in the house hosting this charity event. 34 couches among the 16 rooms of this $70 million estate, which looks and feels more like an airport with an open bar crawling with Hollywood elites than the kind of place you'd call home. And around these 34 couches, there must be someone of influence who doesn't have a sausage-eating problem and an obsession with Lavender Rhodes. "It's called networking, Fen," Paula had said when she handed me a ticket 2 days ago. "If you really want to move out and up, this is the place they bring the ladders. And if you really want to get on one of those ladders, you're going to have to schmooze your pants off." I brace myself and refocus on him as he continues his lecture, to me, about the art of writing for the telly. "Remember, half the guests at this party would cheerfully murder you behind the bushes and take your place if they could get away with it. Remember, Mr. Henry has more money and fresh interest in the affairs of Hollywood than he knows what to do with, thanks to a robust life in business and a recent marriage." I spot a long white carpet fiber on the sausage on his plate. Watch his eyes gloss over it with disinterest before he plucks it off and bites the sausage in 2. "Did you know, Masters," he says around a mouthful as his eyes take on a special gleam, "I'm a writer myself?" I throw an exasperated gaze at Paula. "No." I survived mention of Lavender Rhodes. I will not survive the "I'm also a writer" conversation too. But Paula throws me a "You stay right there, young man" stare. I grit my teeth, but stay. She's a convincing one, that Paula. 10 years my senior, mum of 4, 3 of whom are state championship wrestlers, all of whom could pummel me within an inch of my life, including the 7-year-old. She carries a bit of post-baby weight around the middle, which she spent a couple of years declaring she was working off, but now just refers to fondly during late-night writing sessions, usually with taquito in hand, as Fred. She's been a story editor since I began in the lowly ranks of writing assistant, saw my potential when I was bringing the room caffeine during 2 a.m. shifts and frantically taking notes. She takes the credit for pulling me up to staff writer. She befriended me, mentored me, and also in her motherly way terrifies me. The squint in her eyes just now sends a clear message. Be pleasant, remember why you are here. I clench my jaw. Pleasant. Is that so? I reply, with as much interest as possible. How long have you been... I pause. A writer? Oh, decade at least, he says flippantly as though we're talking about fishing or riding a bicycle. The story first came to me in the middle of the night. Gripping stuff, and I just saw the whole thing laid out for me right then. He manages to put 4 fingers up in a picture this style, and I don't even glance as a crab cake drops to the ground. Start to finale. Guess what the murder weapon was? You'll never guess in 100 years. I wait, but he's looking at me with expectation. Clearly one of those people who actually likes you to guess a handful of incorrect things. I say, feigning to rack my brain. I throw out something so terribly cliché he'll win his little game. Cyanide. His face drops. He looks so wounded I backpedal. Which is very clever if that's what you thought of, I say, tweaking both brows. It can be given surreptitiously with immediate results. Yes, he cries, all wounds forgotten. It is a clever little idea. Dropping a little into a cup of tea at a restaurant would be rather ingenious, wouldn't it? A swap by someone you had thought to be a trusty waiter. I'm going to just pretend I've never heard of Sherlock Holmes here. What's the name of your book? I'll have to look it up. Oh, he says, pulling a face. I haven't gotten to writing it down yet. You know how it is. Something's always blocking my way. But it's here, he taps his temple, safe and sound. I stuff both hands in my pockets and rock back on my heels. Swallow hard. Sure. It pains me, physically pains me to have this conversation. And believe me, he says, I've watched my fair share of that show of yours, and I've never seen it done quite like this. Cyanide shows off the top of my head. Season 2, Episode 11, Season 4, Episode 2, Season 4, Episode 8. Right, I say. Right, he cries, and then with an almighty slap hits me on the shoulder, as though he's found someone who finally gets it. Shakes me a few times, and then freezes. Watery eyes staring at me, thoughts apparently spinning. You know, Finn, he says, leaning in even closer, the sausage on his breath unmistakable. You might be just the man I've been looking for. With your creative intellect, my guidance, and any luck tonight, a conversation that will draw Lavender Rhodes into a mutually, he lowers his voice, advantageous opportunity. We could be the start of a little dream team. That's it. I'm so sorry, Mr. Henry, I interject, disentangling myself from his web as I step back. A colleague is trying desperately to get my attention. I really must be going. Oh. He turns in the direction of the room behind him, and, compelled, I lift a finger towards Paula as if to say, Yes, I see you. I'm coming. She pretends not to see me. I raise my finger higher and begin to wave. She, very clearly having zero interest in helping me make my escape, turns her back on me and exits the room. It was truly a pleasure, I say, undeterred. I wish you the best of luck in your future projects. I'm willing to leave my job for just about any substitute, but there are limits, and Lavender Rhodes is that limit. I can't feel too guilty about leaving him, because the moment I step into the crowd, several guests with beady, vulture-like eyes swoop in, and Mr. Henry, with barely enough time to pop another sausage into his mouth, greets them boisterously through a mouthful and begins again. Now, to find Paula. I maneuver through one room and into another, then an adjoining one, then another, each as packed as the others. The house is a melting pot of two distinct types of Hollywood corporates, both types in their sequined garb, both clutching neon-colored liquids in martini glasses and clouding the room with expensive fragrance. But from a mile away, I could pluck them apart, drop each into his or her designated category, the glitter or the glue. Paula and I are Hollywood's glue, those who belong to the behind-the-scenes work, the financing, the developing, the writing. Anyone from the elite creators of the biggest hits on telly to the prop designer on a B-lister who managed to secure a ticket. Yes, we have on the suits and dresses. Yes, Paula looks rather nice tonight with a nest of curls arranged by Chloe in makeup. But no amount of hair, makeup, or clothing can conceal us enough that we could be mistaken for the other type. There's always some clue. The streak of a tan line, the slight hunch in the shoulders, general level of confidence. And then, of course, there are the glitter. The stars who speak through blindingly white veneers the words we feed them on stage or on set. The ones who don't wither when a crowd looks at them. The ones who can walk in wearing a costume designed to look exactly like a sheet of computer paper with an egg on it, as though this is just a typical Saturday. Two very different worlds. 4 flights of stairs up and down, 20 minutes and one ominous text from Paula's husband with the words, "Stop her," and I find her at the other end of the house. We're in a room that looks like an aircraft hangar, the entirety of one wall raised to reveal the side yard. The sound of barking echoes off the concrete floors, matching the noise level of an aquamarine waterfall outside, flowing into a glowing pool on a cliff top overlooking the city. The view of the skyline is majestic, but surprisingly enough, fewer people stand on the green turf admiring it than beside the rectangular booth where Paula stands now. Barking is coming from at least a dozen large bins. Employees race around as men and women lean over the booth, pointing with their glossy nails. A general frenzy pulses through the air. The atmosphere falls somewhere between the Glastonbury Festival and the discovery of the Princess Diana Beanie Baby at a car boot sale in the 1990s. A banner above the booth reads, "Pause with a Cause." Leaflets are scattered on the floor all around, scribbled with words about a therapy dog charity and where to donate. I don't look long enough to read it through, though, because taking up half the sheet is her face, beneath the bold words, "Rare appearance by her." 100 Lavender Rhodes on leaflets all around me. I step around them, careful not to taint my shoes by a touch. Frankly, I'd leave the room entirely were it not for the need to grab Paula, or more specifically, save her husband, because I see now what Mike was referring to in that text. "Back away from the puppies, Paula," I say, halting behind her. Paula freezes. She turns slowly, revealing 2 cream-colored snowballs in her hands, which, upon further inspection, are living animals. Tiny brown eyes peek out behind the masses of fur, petite teddy bears, if you will. A woman beside us reaches towards one. Paula sticks out an elbow protectively, then swivels around to block her. I may be too late. "Oh, good, Finn. I couldn't hold them off much longer. Here." "What?" I say over the clamor. And before I know it, I'm being handed off a puppy as if it's a martini. "What is this?" I say, looking at the thing in my hands. "That one's for you." "What? You're joking. Are you mad?" "Shh," Paula hisses, slapping the hand of a man trying to take hold of the dog in my arms. A man I'm almost certain is Rowan Atkinson. "Do you realize what this is?" she says in a rush. "These dogs are the goodie bags," she bellows. "The goodie bags!" Okay, we've officially entered Princess Diana Beanie Baby era level. She rubs the puppy maniacally as she continues. "This is a chow chow. They're worth over $11,000, and here they are just giving them away." Her eyes run over the bins of puppies labeled with a variety of exotic names: Luchan, Pharaoh Hound, Tibetan Mastiff. One particularly rowdy bin in the back is peculiarly labeled Program Dropouts. "Terrific," I reply. "But it's also a dog, and you have 4 kids." "So?" "2 other dogs." She gives an annoyed, "What does that have to do with this?" sniff. "1 stray cat, 2 snakes," I continue. Her bottom lip begins to pucker out. "In a house that's 1,200 square feet with a dining table that doubles as your office." Silence. "Just last week you tried to give away your cat. To me." The curls nestled at the nape of her neck quiver as she shakes her head. "Mike texted you, didn't he?" she spits out, squinting at me. "You're teaming up on me." The last thing you need to add to your life is a puppy, despite the fact they're worth more than your minivan. "But—" Our eyes lock for several seconds. Continuous dings are coming from both our phones, no doubt all from Mike. Finally, with a massive shrug that sets off all the sequins down to her toes, she groans through her teeth. "Fine." Multiple hands appear magically to take the dog, which she blindly releases. She then plops the dog I'm holding into a second set of hands. "You know, if you ever fall into a bad case of thallium sulfate poisoning, don't come looking for me to bail you out with any radiogardase antidote." She flings her arms out. "Because heaven knows you can't support me despite all I do for you." A short bark of a laugh explodes behind us, and simultaneously Paula and I turn. A man 30 years my senior stands before us, quietly outdressing everyone in the room, including the woman dressed as a sheet of computer paper and egg. A single red rose rests in the breast pocket of his tuxedo jacket. Thick salt and pepper brows hover like rain clouds over baby blue eyes. A frank, permanent crease sits between his brow, as though he spent much of his life disapproving of people and is unafraid to show it. But his eyes are bright, earnest even, as he looks at me and stretches out one hand. As we shake, Paula's eyes become round as saucers. And all at once it clicks. This is Victor Goodwin in the flesh. Creator and executive producer for Goodwin Productions, the brains behind 15 films that have brought in over $2 billion at the box office worldwide, innumerable TV series, the creator of Neighbours, the long-running sitcom for Wagner Television beloved by billions of people around the world. Victor Goodwin, the legend in the flesh. Another man moves around us. No, that's not correct. He makes a massively wide berth around us, pushing into others rather than enter our conversation. I cast a quick glance around and suddenly realize everyone around us has withdrawn a good 5 feet. "You crime writers certainly have a way with insults," he says. "Mr. Goodwin," I say, surprise clear in my voice. I give a quick nod. "This is an honor." "Finn Masters, is that right?" Goodwin replies. I didn't think Paula's eyes could get wider, but there they are. Her contacts are going to fall out. "Yes, that's right. I must say I'm a huge fan of your work." The words hit me like a blow. A tiny whistle escapes Paula's lips. For the first time, I'm finding it hard, very hard indeed, to give my patent reply. "It's a joint effort," I say after a moment. "Everyone in the writer's room is essential." After a long pause, I add, "Especially Paula here. She's been on the team since the beginning." Paula, who's turned quite wooden, teeters under my pat on her shoulder. "Pleasure," he says, but his eyes don't leave mine. "I've been following you for some time, Masters. You've left an imprint, a mark upon the show. For the better, I hope." "Obviously," he answers with a slight flick of his brow, as though it was stupid of me to ask for reassurance. "Well," I say unsteadily, "thank you. That's quite the compliment." "Not a compliment. The truth." I see Goodwin is the absolute opposite of Mr. Henry. He's the kind of man who speaks bluntly. Even at parties on a Friday night, he doesn't waste time or words. "I followed along the first 2 seasons because I like to keep my eye on the competition," he continues. "Get a clear view of the landscape." He has to be joking. Higher stakes hardly counts as competition. But then something surprised me when I started the 3rd season, right after you were hired on. His eyes grow steely. There's a hardness in his voice as though what he's about to say is of great and unfortunate importance. "I found I was starting to like it." Thank you," I say. "I began to look forward to 6 o'clock Monday evenings," he adds with a frown. Several seconds go by. I'm not sure how to respond to this. "And then one day," Goodwin says slowly, voice dropping to a foreboding rumble, "I did something inexcusable. I found myself rescheduling a small dinner party." From cues alone, one would think I was supposed to display shock and cry out, "No!" Instead, I wait silently for him to continue. "Why?" He presses an accusing finger on my chest. "So I could watch your show. You," he taps on my chest twice, "hooked me on your show." My eyes flicker to Paula. "There are plenty of writers on the team. You were the change." Another lengthy silence ensues. "It's her!" I hear someone hiss in another conversation. Heads turn toward the side of the house, where windows illuminate the valley in the circular driveway outside. For a moment, I'm tempted to turn my attention away. "And that," Mr. Goodwin continues, "is why I want to talk to you. Word on the street is that you are looking for new employment." My chest tightens. "I'm not sure where you got that information," I say evasively. "I've been careful to only speak to a couple of people. If my boss found out, I would be sacked on the spot." "There's Lavender!" somebody cries out. People begin to move, some slowly, others throwing care and reputation to the wind and rushing in heels with sloshing champagne glasses. Several are taking out their phones. Even the employees clutching leaflets and dogs have made their way outside. Paula, I realize, is no longer beside us. The room is rapidly emptying but for Goodwin and myself. I have to tread lightly here. "What are you hinting at, sir?" I say. "My supervising producer stepped down last week." He plucks a dog hair off his otherwise impeccable suit. "She decided to," there's a slight hesitation, "take a sabbatical." I fight a tilt of my brow. Goodwin is using the term sabbatical pretty loosely. It's no secret he's a workhorse and runs the writer's room behind his decade-long sitcom with a perfectionist's eye. Last we heard, Carrie Suja sold all her belongings, including her phone and laptop, purchased a camper van, and now is swerving along the mountainous roads of Colorado with a rabbit in her lap and mushroom tea in hand. But sure, sabbatical works too. "If you're up for the job, I could use you." And there it was. Out of the blue, the offer of a lifetime. Not to the lowest rungs of the biggest sitcom in history, but as producer. The offer I'd been dreaming of, at my fingertips. "You want me to join Neighbors, as supervising producer? The rest of the team is adequate to their jobs." Adequate? The show has 75 Emmy nominations and 12 wins. Each writer on that team could take my job tomorrow, just sweep it right out from under me if they asked. "But the reality is," he continues, then pauses as if deciding whether he really wants to say this aloud. Apparently what he's about to say is important enough to risk sharing with a total stranger. "We've been on air a long time. America can only handle watching their favorite TV couple repeat a cycle of dating, then breaking up for absurd reasons for so long before they give up." I begin to shake my head. I know what he's saying, but Neighbors is a legend. The cast in some measure is on every cover of everything I see in print at any point, any day. He puts up a hand, halting me. "Nobody's seeing it yet, but ratings have plateaued." Yes, at the top. The writers are blaming it on the holidays, or saying inane things like, "Neighbors is on top. There's nowhere to go." I drop my eyes to prevent him from reading my very thoughts and soul. "Idiots," he hisses. "It's TV. There's always room to grow." I get it now. I get why Carrie Suja is currently enjoying the winding mountain roads of Colorado in a camper van named Solo. I've lived long enough, though, and if there's one thing I know, it's TV. I sense change coming, and we need an outsider who can ignite that change. Frankly, I need you. I look around, and for one wild moment the question crops up. Did he know I was going to be here tonight? Even I wasn't sure until the last moment I was going to be here tonight. A creeping suspicion follows that if Mr. Goodwin wanted to find me, he'd find me. By knowing about my whereabouts and finding me at this party. By slipping a pig's head into a cake for me with icing that says, "Work for me or else." One way or another. As if to answer my unspoken question, Goodwin adds, "I have a couple other names, but rather fortuitously I found you here first. And if it's all the same to you, I'd like to just nail down the position tonight." Tonight. He wants a decision tonight. As in, right now. Well, it's simple, isn't it? It is impossible to turn down. Absolutely impossible. Nobody in their right mind would turn down this opportunity. Everyone in Hollywood would give anything to work for Goodwin. And of course, I have Paula to thank for giving me that ticket and dragging me here. I suck in a breath and flick my eyes over. Paula's on her toes now, craning her neck with her hands on the shoulders of... Is that Melissa Rauch? As they all peer through the window. I at least have to try. It'll be a challenge jumping in from the outside. I could use somebody in that room on my side. Something in his eyes flashes, as though he sees my challenge. Does he like my bravado? Desperation courses through my veins with the urgent plea he likes my bravado. You want her? He tosses a head Paula's direction. She's been in the business 15 years. I pause, throwing out one more bone. Came up with Cedar Christie's character herself. Zing. The crease between his brows eases to a sliver. Everybody loves Detective Phillips's charming comedic supporting character. Cedar Christie is the sidekick who brought new life to the show's 5th season. I can see his tongue sliding over his teeth as he considers my proposition. He wears the same expression as that guest serial killer we had on last season. Prodigious thinking. Lining up the dominoes of how things will play one by one, and then mentally flicking the first domino and watching how it all falls. Apparently he likes what he sees, because he blinks and pivots his attention back to me. She'll come on as staff writer. If she's worth her salt, she'll move up the ranks as people die off. Funny. Most people call that getting promoted. But know this, masters, he continues, and there they are again, those rain-cloud brows moving together forebodingly. I don't like to waste my time. If you're in, this is an all-in position. If you're one of those people who likes nights to themselves, who'd want that? Staying at work late to write is part of the gig. Weekends. Sure, I am accustomed to occasional Saturdays in the writer's room. Holidays. Whoa now. Time off for weddings. Why did he put that in air quotes? Funerals for your aunt's next-door neighbor's niece. Well, and all those other little extracurriculars. I mean, I'm fairly certain no one in the history of the world has referred to a funeral as an extracurricular. Then this job isn't for you. But if you are willing to work, to consider coming in early as on time and leaving late as standard, and the thrill of seeing your ideas come to life and entertaining an entire generation is sufficient. He pauses and lifts a finger as if to declare that his next words are key. If you can give 150% to this job, then name your price, and I'll double it. He stops, and is waiting for me, it seems, to answer. With an actual number. I'm tempted to look around me, half expecting this to be some cruel party trick bigwig celebrities play on the lowly nobodies at parties, which would then be caught on camera. Then shared, of course, and everyone gets a good laugh, while I get fired. But there is the chance, the deliriously hopeful chance. 10 grand per episode, I say. Bold is the right choice, yes? I scrutinize his expression in that blink of a moment, hoping I am right. Mr. Goodwin is stoic for far, far too long. Then he laughs. You'll do it for 5, he replies and slaps me hard on the back. And if you last till June, we'll talk. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'll see you Monday morning. And suddenly he's strolling towards the exit doors. Where are we meeting? I call out. At work, he calls back, as though the question is an obvious one and he takes offense at obvious ones. Obviously. Right, I'll just figure out that little detail later. And suddenly there I am, standing alone beneath a slowly revolving disco ball in an empty room, martini glasses with neon liquid strewn around me, a yap coming from an escaped puppy racing across the floor. I've just accepted a job, and the job is perfect. I ignore the open door and, stuffing my hands into my trouser pockets, step slowly over to the window and look out. Cameras flash like lightning. A crowd has formed around the circular driveway. The job is perfect. I watch as everyone, both the glitter and the glue, all so posh and polished, completely loses their cool as one leg with a 4-inch heeled shoe stretches out of the limo and touches the pavement. The job is perfect, I repeat, chest tightening as I watch the woman take the hand of a man and step out in a simple, shimmering silver gown. Her hair falls over one eye and she pulls it back, giving a winsome smile to the crowd as though they are just the chummiest of friends. Repulsive. The job is perfect. Through the window, I can hear the muted cries of people calling, "Lavender! Over here!" Vomit. In my mouth. Who told her to choose the name Lavender Rhodes? What feeble marketing ploy was it to encourage audiences to hear her name and conjure up images of driving through fields of lavender? It's Mary Rhodes. But apparently, the name embodied by millions throughout history, including the Virgin Mother herself, wasn't good enough for her. I watch from the window as the crowd swallows her. A weak February rain begins to dot the lawn. Rain slaps the window and slowly rolls down the pane. I'm certain from an outsider's perspective I look like an angry old man, the one naysayer among a crowd of enthusiasts. But they don't know her like I do they? This job is perfect. A career move of a lifetime. A pivotal moment in my life. Absolutely everything I've ever wanted. Except for her. Because I hate. No, it's not a strong enough word. I absolutely loathe Lavender Rhodes. And on Goodwin's famed neighbours, Lavender Rhodes is the star. But the job is perfect.